Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Puck Watching. This is a little bit of a Friday episode, different from our normal Sunday night episodes before some Sunday night football action, but Nick is currently traveling right now. He's in a West Coast state right now, which is a little contrary to the norm here. But we'll get a brief update from him, but this is going to be definitely a pessimistic, somber episode today. Unfortunately, this team has not looked great, Nick, and I think we were talking about it over text last night. This is really not a great sign, and a lot of the things that Montgomery was saying over the week, where he's jumbling the lines, team hasn't found their identity yet. You do it again, trying to get into Utah last night, and it's a very bad result at the end of that one. So, but before we get into it, let's get the conversation going. Nick, you're in Oregon. What's going on with there?
Eugene, Oregon. First time. This isn't my jacket, but a nice Oregon colored green logo there. Go Ducks. Wow. They play Wisconsin tomorrow, so they're going to beat the crap out of them, and I'm sure that it won't be a very good game. But yeah, we're having fun. Walked the campus this morning. Everything's great. So beautiful fall foliage as well.
Yeah. How does it compare to BC campus wise
in terms of
just like the overall beauty, landscape, all that?
It's much nicer. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I was surprised because BC is pretty nice.
It's a nice campus.
Okay.
I don't know. The college campuses can blend together. It's not the same. Like BC is a Jesuit Catholic like university, more Gothic. Oregon's not like that, more contemporary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I again, this is we'll put our little college game day twist on this. Obviously, Nick picked the Ducks. Low, Boston College, Louisville. I think they're 26.5 point underdogs this weekend. Hammer that. I'm expecting some big things out of those guys against the number 19 team in the country. Nick, come on.
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried about BC. I'm gonna say it. Very worried. This could sink the program into oblivion.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna take the hat off pretty quickly here because I don't really necessarily believe what I just said, but you know, hoping for the best. And 26.5 is a lot, by the way. And they have been losing games like that. So not surprised.
Oregon is favored by 32.
Man.
So
okay.
It's not looking good over here either.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so we just wanted to get a quick update there because I know we got a lot to talk about for the rest of this episode here. But I guess quickly before we get into the more broader topics here, Nick, let's get in a quick little summary of what happened over the two games. So you lose to LA on Tuesday at home in an OT loss 2-1. That wasn't a great one from the Blues at all. Jordan Bennington kind of kept you in the game at multiple points of the entire showdown between those two teams. And then last night was the more brutal one of the two. You lose, you go down 4-0 in the first period, and you look like a team that has never really played an NHL opponent for the first period. That's what I saw. Like there was just nothing going in with that team. And then Montgomery has his big presser on Tuesday where he was saying we're not converging on the net. Our eyes are on the next pass. We don't have our identities right. He was going off on a tangent as he should have been. So, Nick, thoughts overall on the last two games and where we stand?
It hasn't been good. I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we thought it's different than that. I'm getting, I like Montgomery. It's fine, but the coach speak stuff is growing a bit old for me. He keeps talking about how, people need to stop trying to do what they think their job is and do what he thinks or they think the team needs their job to be. And I'm like, that doesn't make any intuitive sense. Like it's such an arbitrary, subjective thing to say because you can't pin that to anything. You don't really know what it means. It's almost like once it hits you, you'll understand. And I don't like when people talk like that. It doesn't make me feel comfortable with how they think the trajectory of the team is, because there's nothing tangible for players to really try to embrace. He said that so many times now already because the Blues have just thrown up stinkers. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I think that's the 4th game now where they've looked really bad and in the last 7 games. So all of that projection by him and trying to have something make sense because things are not looking good right now. I don't know. Like, the things that he's saying are just not things that people can hold on to and actually say, hey, if Kyrou does these things better, we're going to be better. It's like, you need to do your job, but it's not the job that you think your job is. And you're like, I don't know how that makes sense. I don't know how that's going to make anyone feel better. If you're saying that to the players, I don't know what they're even supposed to do with that.
Right.
So it's something that I'm kind of struggling with as he tries to make sense of whatever's going on, as we try to make sense, because it's coach speak, like when it comes down to it. And you hear coaches do that when they don't really know what's wrong. And I don't like that he's already at this point. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's weird.
It's a weird tone I think he's putting on to this team. And, he's pinning it on a lot of bad habits and things. We're just not playing the right way. We're not playing for each other. I think that there are a lot of, positives to that, like to what Montgomery was saying. I think he's right on some things, but at the same time, though, I worry about the constant change with this team and not really letting them get their feet under each other. Like, you go from line to line each game. Like, they switched up the lines last night in different combinations. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Like, you got to get people that are playing on the same page, but at the same time, like, maybe it's going to take a little bit more than just a game for people to start playing the right way. So I don't necessarily disagree with his comments. Because I think it's a frustrated coach who saw at the beginning of the season and throughout the offseason that this is going to be a good hockey team. So I think he has that mindset where he knows that there is something there with this team. I think there's just frustration from him, and I'm sure from all the guys, that we're not playing in the way that we are capable of playing, right? Like, it seems weird to me that we're not on the same page, because, I think of, it's like 5 months ago or 6 months ago when this season, the season ended last year, you couldn't have had more flow with this team. It was like a flow state with the Blues team, and you can't find it right now. So I don't know.
You can't find it. Can you hear this in the background? There's someone mowing the lawn. Can you hear that?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I think the thing about the Blues, and I think why maybe that 12-game win streak, flying into the playoffs. Let's not forget, even when they won those 12 games in a row, they lost 3 in a row in the last 4 games of the year and almost missed out on a playoff spot.
Right.
So, and let's also not forget that even though Jim Montgomery was not our coach in the first couple months of last season, they were bad for the whole month of October and pretty much the whole month of November. And then Montgomery moves in later in November, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to turn it around. We're going to be great." That didn't happen. Like let's all really be honest. Like, Jim Montgomery did a better job of maybe, instilling some better habits into the players, and maybe the Blues weren't looking as bad on the ice. But we're kidding ourselves if we thought that they were winning, with a 650 percentage, winning clip. That wasn't happening. It wasn't happening at all. So I don't know, Blues fans, like, it's a bit frustrating because I'm frustrated on what's been going on because I think they're capable of more, but they're 3-3-1, and there's a lot to be worried about. but we're so early in the season right now. And I think people forget so quickly that this team was not a top 3 in the Central. Like, they were a last second wild card team, and the expectations may be a little bit too high to what the team is probably capable of. But again, I think we do have to be patient. We're so early. We're not even in November yet. And we have to be careful not to think that and mistake ourselves for the Colorado Avalanche or the Dallas Stars, where they know their identity. Like, they're a team that's been in the playoffs for the last 5 years straight and making deep cup runs, not necessarily winning. But we have to be honest with ourselves, I think, and understand where the team's at. And we've made the playoffs one time in the last 3 years. So we need to be careful with that and make sure that we're measuring ourselves, because we're going to have stinkers. Let's not have the floor be this low, but we know the ceiling's higher now, but we know where our floor is, and it's not great, and we need to make sure to raise it. But we're not going to win every game, and we're probably going to look bad in some of them. And that's indeed happened for the first 7 games. You just don't want it to keep rhyming and being consistent. And that's what Monty has to be careful of, and what the Blues have to be careful of right now.
Yeah, I think the one thing I understand about Montgomery and what he's emphasizing is that when you look into the latter parts of this season and the Blues are fighting for a playoff spot, and say they miss it by like 2 points, right? You look back on those early days where it's like, man, if we found our game a little earlier, we could have been in the playoffs for right now. So I understand, because when you look at the elite teams and where they're at, they have pretty good starts a lot of the time, and they're overall consistent teams no matter what point of the season they are. And so I think this is what's separating right now the Blues from that next big jump, which is this elite level team right now, is you don't have the start. And that's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds really good, but unfortunately, with what we projected and before the season started, wildcard teams don't play like that. Wildcard teams have ups and downs. They go through ebbs and flows. It's what the Blues have been doing for the last 3 years. Last year was the first time that they actually made it happen. But we, as wildcard teams looking for a spot, which is where the Blues are, if we're going to be transparent with each other, they are not going to have a consistent season where they're not going to have stinkers of a couple weeks in a row. And that's unfortunately where they find themselves right now. And though 3-3-1 isn't the end of the world to start, but they definitely need to make sure that they don't find themselves, 10 to 15 points out in November, December. But yeah, I that's the only part where I disagree is, like, we're going to have parts of the season that aren't going to be good. It's just reality. Like, Minnesota made the playoffs last year. I think they lost 8 in a row at one point. When they started to really slide, they got plagued with injuries, and that's also a part of hockey. So it happens, and we have to be okay with that to an extent, and it's unfortunate, but the Blues are not in this position where they can play consistent all year. And if they ever are, they're going to be great. But right now, they're just not there at all.
Yeah, I'm just saying that that's what separates this team from those big 3, because I think some people, I think it's more of the minority, said that this team may be a top 3 Central team. I don't think we said that in our preview, but it definitely separates those 2 forms of franchises that are elite versus contenders per se. I think, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a really I think ongoing storyline with this, because I mean, if the Blues go on to win 5 straight after this, then who's going to be thinking about what happened 5 games before this, right? So
that's what I'm saying. Like, people have very short-term memories as to what happened last year, and it was such a rocky season. Like, rattled 2 or 3 off, lose 1, and then win 1, lose 3. Like, that happened almost the whole entire season until February. Mm-hmm. So it's just a kind of a fact of the Blues, unfortunately. And I wish, consistency should happen. I know we got a question or a comment rather, but I agree that consistency should happen sooner with Montgomery, but it didn't happen until 2 or 3 months into Montgomery's coaching tenure with the Blues last year.
Right.
And I know that he had a full off season, which
that's the
intuitively, you would think that it would happen quicker. But they did get a couple new bodies. They're trying out a younger defenseman in Mayu, and it's going to take a bit to get traction, unfortunately. And maybe people want it to happen quicker, but everyone's going to ebb and flow in their own timeline, unfortunately. And Montgomery probably is only going to be able to do so much. But it's just been a bummer because the last few games have just been kind of exactly what we were scared of, just kind of a regression. And that's kind of what they've been doing. And it's unfortunate.
And it's not only a regression, I think, it's also just bad hockey that they're playing. Like I think that when you look at the Utah team, which I think very similar to the Blues when it comes to skill level, younger, and they have some veterans, but they're definitely more on the younger side. And especially we saw it from Logan Cooley last night, who had a hat trick in the first period. That guy. And by the way, it's normally Keller who scored 2 goals in that game. So it was him second on the list. But still, I mean, Cooley is unbelievable. That's another topic. But yeah, this is very weird, Nick. And I definitely think that this is more than a regression, I think is my point here. But let's focus more something deeper here. And last night, I think, is fresh in our minds. We're not going to go over the whole game because it was just atrocious, mostly through the first and second period. And then they started to get some more life in the third. But let's talk about Joel Hofer. Joel Hofer, who we talked about extensively in the last episode as well, he has not been good. And it's an unfortunate fact because I got somebody text me from STL a couple of days ago, or I think it was last night, actually, when Hofer got pulled. It's like, man, maybe we're starting to really think back at the decision to release Colton Ellis. And I'm like, I think probably shouldn't get ahead of ourselves right now. These were 2 bad starts and 1 good start. So you're kind of 1 for 2 or 1 for 3 in starts from Joel Hofer. But here's the issue, and we'll put it on here. Look at this. So the struggles from goaltending have been apparent, but more specifically on the left side. Joel Hofer, save percentage, .789, last place in the league. Goals against, 6.22, also last in the league. And then goals saved above expected, -4.2, 63rd of 66. So, not a recipe for success, as we've always said with Hofer, but you're really right now in the danger zone because I haven't seen in a while, Nick, where Blues goaltending have been that far down on the list.
Yeah. The Hofer situation with Colton Ellis, listen, I mean, it's so that I just think it's almost like a ridiculous thing to be arguing about that already. I think that's a stupid argument, and it only happens on Twitter. But no reason to talk about how we missed out on dropping or not re-signing Hofer and bringing Ellis up. Like, I just think that is such a dumb hypothetical game to play when he had 1 good game, Ellis did, and now all of a sudden we're like, well, Hofer had 2 bad games, so now that by the transitive property, that means Ellis is a better goalie. Like, that's such a ridiculous thing. Hofer has had 2 good years in the NHL so far. And what I'm gonna repeat what Montgomery said. He's a really talented athlete. He's gonna turn this around. You just have to keep the faith in Hofer. However, you probably, and I tweeted this yesterday, you were probably not going to split your games like Montgomery was alluding to after Hofer had that 1 good game and Bennington had the 1 bad game. Because I think Montgomery, and I love the guy, but another short-sighted error by him where he's talking to the press and saying, yeah, I think we're going to have a 50-50 split now after Bennington got pulled against the Wild and Hofer had a good game the following one. I'm like, that's not the way you should be, unless you're trying to fire Benner up, which I still think he might have been trying to do that. But that was never really realistic for me. I always thought Bennington was going to get a majority of it. And now I think that even more, that Bennington is going to have to step up. We pay him the big bucks. He's a good goaltender. He's played well the last couple starts that he's had after the Wild, absolute debacle in opening night. But I think it's time to kind of stop talking about that game and just focus on how he's been playing recently. And of course, the stats don't look great still because of the skewing with that first game. But he's been fine. Like ever since he has come in twice for Hofer now. I mean, if you're looking at Hofer and you want to get even more, miserable, Hofer has started his last 2 starts. He should have been pulled both times in the first period, but he actually did get pulled in the first period last night. And in the previous game, he got pulled in the second when they were already down. He already let up like 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah.
So, he's not seeing the puck. It's very clear. He's not thinking very decisively. I don't think the Blues are doing a very good job of helping him out, if I'm being transparent. But I would also say the same about Bennington. So but the problem with goalies is that once they let in that first one and you already find yourself down, which is exactly what Hofer did yesterday, where he got beat. It was Utah's first shot on goal. He lets it up, and all of a sudden the Blues are back to square one where they're playing from behind again, and they have a horrible record when they play from behind. So it's one of those things that just needs to be addressed and nipped in the bud very, very quickly. Because if they keep letting these things happen, both of them, but Hofer in particular, and Blues have to play from behind, they're not a come from behind team. They're just not. They haven't been for a really long time. They need to solidify a lead and then build on it. And unfortunately, I wish it was different, but that's just the way they've been playing. And it's a problem, though. The goaltending is a huge problem. They need to rely on it. They've been good for the last couple of years. I think last regular season was not amazing, but it wasn't bad. But playoff time, it was good. So the Blues are in a weird spot where both goaltenders have been shaky, but Hofer in particular, and I think they have to turn to Bennington to try to right the ship there.
No, you're right. Yeah. And the 3 goals last night that he let up, actually, so he was pulled out for 3 goals. Sorry, I forgot about that. So it was 3-0, and then he got pulled, and then Bennington let up another one in the first period. Yeah, I mean, it was 3 goals on 6 shots, and the issue with it was the first one was through that 5 hole, then you had another one at a really bad angle. So to me, when you get 6 shots on and you're not saving at least one of those, obviously you're going to get pulled, and it's definitely something that's for cause to concern. But I'll emulate what you said. Like, he definitely is talented, and I think we should believe in him to get some big saves and play in some big games. But right now, you can't trust that. And we know that you can trust somebody like Bennington right now. Like, I think despite Hofer's struggles, Jordan Bennington, yes, his stats don't look great either. He's 40th, 32nd, 46th in save percentage, but it's a heck of a lot better than what's on the left. I can tell you that. And so turn to him as much as you can. And then when you see something, and maybe his practices are just fine, and it's just the games that are the issue, then I think that's more of a mental thing than anything. But right now, it's definitely a lot on him. But also, I think when we could say this, tell me where you put the percentage. So last night's first period, they didn't play well at all, the Blues team entirely. Where would you put the liability on for Hofer? Is it like a 70% part of that where that period was kind of on him, or is it like a 50-50 split? Is it lower than that? Where do you see it?
I think that's a tough question because when you listen to what Montgomery said about that first period, and I totally agreed with him, the first 2 minutes were not bad. It was a back and forth game. Everything was fine. It was pretty balanced. People were skating hard. And then he lets in the softie, and it changed the entire trajectory of the first period. And you can put that on the Blues for having a crappy response and not playing hockey, it seemed like, after they let up that first goal and let Utah just skate all over their throats. Right. I mean, that's exactly what happened in the first period. So if we're going to blame Hofer for allowing that to be the case, then maybe he deserves, 65 to 70% of that blame. But unfortunately, the Blues did a horrible job of trying to pick up their goaltender. Like, of course, you would like your players to be like, hey, rub that one off. We're going to get one back for you. We're going to tighten up back here. And we're not going to let you face any of these shots anymore. We're going to put one in the back of the net, and we're going to have an even ball game in just a second. Like, that's what you want your players to do in real time after a goaltender lets up the softie. And that just, I mean, the exact opposite happened. The exact opposite happened where they're like, hey, guess what? You're going to be sitting out and just in the middle of complete crossfire in a blitzkrieg where he was facing shot after shot and high quality, dangerous chances. And the Blues were just out to lunch. They didn't even bother to try to help out. They had no defensive strategy. And literally, I think they had 3 shots on goal in the first period. Like, it was disgusting. The response couldn't have been worse. But I mean, Hofer, if he makes that save, things can be different. Big saves and not going down 1-0 and keeping it even matters a lot. So I'll put it 65 to 7% on Hofer. Like, that is a problem, and it's on him. But I'd want Blues to play better after that. So 30% on the Blues outside of Hofer.
Yeah, eerily similar to the Chicago game, the way it started. Like, I think that's, and again, you can put a little bit on the Blues for that lack of response, as you said, but terrible way to start a hockey game. You got to come up with that, because it just sets your team up on the wrong foot. And I think when the Blues were scoring first, I remember Rob said this on our interview with him, like, when we scored first, we were lights out last year. Just, it's the power of those first period starts, or just getting the first goal in general, is huge. And it's been really biting this team every single time that this has happened. And it wasn't necessarily in the Minnesota game, but it was definitely prevalent in the Chicago and now this one against Utah. So and the other ones too. This is a lot of the defense too. You have to put some blame on it, and especially the third one that they had, which was a bad pinch. It wasn't necessarily on the defense completely. It was a couple of bad pinch from Pius Suter, and then Snuggerud tries to catch up to Logan Cooley on the rush, and you just couldn't figure out. So maybe it's like a positioning thing as well, to where you can't catch up with young guys in Utah who are going to be able to burn you through the blue line. So I think that's also an issue too. But again, broad defense right now is really an issue. We're letting up so many high quality chances, I think.
It's really bad. I mean, I'm pulling up the stats. Geez, Mayu was a -2 again yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put anything on Mayu last night. I didn't think he was that bad. Of course, that's not really high praise for someone that's already been playing really badly to start the season, but you got to be patient with the kid. And that's just what I'm going to keep saying until we're a few months into the season. Yeah. But however, I mean, Fowler's -3, Neighbors -3, Shen -3, you know, things are not going very well. And like what you said with the positioning, I mean, the amount of times that the Blues have found themselves in these odd man rushes, or just having someone like almost virtually on a breakaway, and the Blues are in no man's land. Like, I just think their game plan right now, and whether that can be a coaching thing or just an execution on the players, like, I don't think they know what they're doing. I really don't think they know what they're doing. I think they're kind of playing this half execution style where they're like, hey, well, let's try to skate into the red line. Let's dump it in, and let's get on our forecheck. But the forecheck sucks. Their forecheck is not good right now. I think they're missing Torpchenko a lot right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, you had Sonny kind of get on the board yesterday. What do you have? 2 assists yesterday.
He was the MVP of the game.
Yeah. Sure. And you know, kind of people do like kind of crapping all over Sonny sometimes because he's kind of slow. He commits some penalties. He takes dives every now and again, but he didn't have the worst game by any stretch yesterday. Yeah. And I do think they're missing Torp, like I said, in the forecheck, but one player is not going to be able to make all this difference on the forecheck. It's an effort thing. And the Blues did a really good job of that when they made that run last year of being all over opposing teams on the forecheck, getting the puck deep. And we know for a fact the Blues are a horrible entry to the offensive blue line team. They're horrible. They're horrible. They've always been horrible at doing that. They don't have confidence skating to their own offensive zone. They never have. Whether it's Thomas, Kyrou, Holloway, it doesn't matter who tries to do it. They are very unsuccessful. And by the way, that's not just 5-on-5. That's power play stuff. Yeah, their power play, I know they scored last night, but What a deceiving stat. That was horrible power play units. Horrible. And I don't really know why. I know you lost Bolduc, and I already had people in my comment section when I was tweeting about it saying back-to-back horrible power plays, whatever. And they're like, well, who would make the power play a little bit better is Zach Bolduc. I'm like, yeah, but not really. Like, I know Bolduc's had success on the power play, especially late in the season for us last year. And I know he's been decent with the Canadians so far, but let's be honest, like, these problems extend well beyond trading for Logan Mailloux and losing Zach Bolduc. Like, it's getting a little bit frustrating because like we're merely scratching the surface of what these issues actually are. And I think we just kind of got a little bit in over our heads on what this team was going to be capable of early on. Caveat, early on. And I think they can find their groove, but there are a lot of issues, and a lot of them that happened prior to us making the run are rearing their ugly head yet again. You can't get in the offensive zone. You're not being able to dump and chase and get on the forecheck like you were after that. Like, there are these things that you're just not able to do that you could do, and you found a lot of success in the last 2.5 months of the season last year. And the essence of addressing those is extremely difficult because you just have Monty saying these effort things that can hit or they don't. And it's not necessarily anything strategic besides just, hey, we got to play for each other. And that's what kind of worries me, because I don't know sometimes if this is all about effort or it can be just a talent gap. And I really hope it's not the latter, but it's what people worry about.
Right. No, that's the problem. And the talent issue, we just haven't really seen people that have been really playing to their level yet. And like, I can't tell you one person that has, and I think maybe you could make a case for Snuggerud, but he's been absent the last 2 games. Haven't seen that guy at all. And I don't know what his playing time was last night, but didn't see him a lot. And he wasn't generating much either. And maybe that's an issue with the line pairing there. So here's what I'll say, though, going back to the defense. Maybe this is an issue with the pairings themselves right now, because you had very different combinations the last couple games, right? You had, because Falk and Broberg weren't playing together. I think it was Parayko and Broberg this time, and then it was Fowler and Tucker maybe, and Mailloux and Falk. Does that sound right?
No, because Falk, there's no way, because he was even on the plus minus. I feel like Mailloux was with Fowler, given their plus minus.
Was with Fowler. Okay, and then Tucker and Falk. Falk. Okay, so yeah, and that really hasn't been seemingly working out, and so I don't really know what you do with that. I think right now you hold the line with these current pairings right now. See how bad it can really be. And, if the next 3 games happen, you go against Detroit tomorrow, and the same thing happens where you're letting up chance after chance, 2-on-1s, odd man rushes of everything, then probably got to switch back and rearrange some things again, because there's no other way I can think that you can put the blame on this. You can't put it on Mailloux for all of it. And I actually thought he probably had one of his better games last night. I know -2 doesn't sound great, but I think for what we are kind of asking for him, I thought he did a little bit more last night. So not going to put all the blame on him. I think it's just the lack of chemistry, Nick.
I thought he was fine. And of course, like, it's just a weird spot we find ourselves in when we're trying to judge a guy when the Blues are, not to be hyperbolic, but they're kind of in shambles right now, and Mailloux's an issue, but he's obviously not the main problem. And it's just one of those things where you can't really necessarily point to a certain player that's really, really underperforming, because you have Rob who has 5 points. You have Buchnevich, who got on the board and scored a goal, and now he has 5 or 6 points now. Neighbors has 4 goals. Like, some things on the stat department don't look horrible, but when you watch these games, you realize that there are much larger problems than simply looking at the stat book and just seeing a plus minus, or you're just seeing goals or assists. Like, it's these problems of being able to possess the puck in their offensive zone, working it around and taking the puck from other teams. Like, it just doesn't seem like there's anything easy going on. And they went through stretches yesterday where they looked better.
Yeah,
I think that's also a result of Utah just playing with the lead. It's difficult playing with a 4-goal lead, like, in my opinion.
yeah,
Like, you don't really know exactly what your strategy is, or you're still pushing high pressure, or you're going to sit back and let people skate into your own zone. And that's what I kind of hate about those games, because it makes, like, the Blues, for instance, look a little bit better than they probably are when it comes to their offensive capability. So I don't trust what happened yesterday as them like, oh, they flipped a switch, they're much better than what I thought they were. I don't think that. If they would have come back and tied that game, yes, I would have believed that. But of course, you have an opportunity. It's 5-4. You have an opportunity, and you go on a power play. You have literally one of the worst power plays in the freaking world. And then all of a sudden, I think Shen commits a penalty, and then penalty kill, immediate goal. And then you find yourselves down a pair, and it's the third period, and you've already been struggling to generate offense in general. And are you expecting to score 6 goals?
yeah.
I don't know. Probably not.
No.
So it's definitely really frustrating. And then when you talk about the Kings game that happened before, it's like they did come from behind there. It's 1-1. Falk had a great pass from Rob, and I remember we talked about it that night. Great pass. And then you go to overtime. I mean, Buchnevich had a great opportunity, ends up committing a penalty on the opposite end because he's tired, and they score immediately.
Right.
So all of this is just like penalty kill is rearing its ugly head. Goaltending's not helping. Power play sucks, and their overall 5-on-5 play hasn't been good.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of problems, and I know we keep reiterating them, but they're all rearing the worst part of like the ugliest head right now, and it's bad.
Yeah. And the Kings game is so deceiving. I think that one point you get, the 1 point you get out of that does not show the performance that they had in that game at all. And actually, Montgomery's presser in the Kings game after was so much more frustrated. It looked so much more frustrated than what he actually did in last night. And because I think last night, that third period was a lot better than the rest of the game and the rest of the last 2 games. Like, there was none of that energy in that team in LA or against LA. There was none of that. But you at least had some of it that kind of came forth in the end of the second and the beginning of the third in the Utah game. They were flying. Like, I was like, okay, this is sort of the team that I remember that was able to do so much last year and generate so much and have just probably some of the best offensive ozone time, I think, in the league. And they just have not showed that, I think. So I hate the idea that we got a point out of LA and out of that performance. I obviously love that we got the point because I think it's important rather than losing another one. We're, I think, in such a different situation. If you get a 3-4 record now, it just looks a lot better having that extra point for me. But I think looking back at the stats, though, Nick, one of the things that I was also thinking about is Dylan Holloway. And just like Snuggerud, I think, and we didn't really necessarily expect it out of Snuggerud coming in because he's still learning the league. But Holloway has also been absent. I just have not seen him much on the ice in the last couple of games. He's got 2 points, just a goal and an assist, and didn't do anything last night. And
yeah, don't look at his stat line. That is for sure. I mean, like what you said, 1 goal, 1 assist, and a -6 on the ice so far. I mean, the Blues goal differential is really horrible anyway. Yeah. But if you compare that already to what he was able to do last year, you can't help but worry a little bit on what the ceiling is for him actually. Yeah. And, it's a contract year for Dylan Holloway. Yeah. So this is a big year for him. And of course, there's a lot of hockey to be played. I hate that we're jumping to, these crazy conclusions, and I'm not trying to, but it's just the state of where they are currently. So I think Dylan Holloway's got a lot of work to do. And by the way, he's not alone. Like, I think Jordan Kyrou has plenty of work to do. I think Robert Thomas has plenty of work to do. Buchnevich, happy for him that he got on the board, 600 games, clap it up, great. But not enough. Not enough. And they have to keep pushing and trying to find something that they were able to find last year where they're able to possess the puck in their own zone. Holloway's flying around the ice, forechecking, wreaking havoc. Like, that was his MO. He was an effort guy. He could hit people. Like, you see, like, glimpses of it. I don't know if it's because he's trying to be cautious with his injury and he's not playing at full speed and he's a bit concerned, or he's still not fully healed, or whatever it may be. I don't know. But clearly something's off with him. It's very easy to see. And it seems like something's off with the entirety of the Blues lineup. And no one's alone right now. Everyone's got something to prove and correct. And there's no doubt that these last two games have showed us that no one is bringing their A game in any of these games, with maybe the exception of the Dallas game.
Right. And I'll tell you right now that, and I'm glad that light sound geometry is talking about this, is that I also don't think we're giving enough credit to these teams that the Blues have come on and faced in the last two games. LA, they didn't start great. They were 1-3-2 coming into the game that we played against them, and they looked really good in the game, and they were not letting us get any chances. That's a lot of the fault to us, but also credit to them for being able to shut us down, especially on the rush, and not being able to have a really solid forecheck against them. Same with Utah last night, I thought. The Mammoth have 5 top 10 picks right now. And we don't have that. We got one, and he's in the farm system right now and is slowly sort of developing, but not playing with this team. So, and Logan Cooley and Clayton Keller, but I think excluding Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, like, maybe you could compare Keller and Cooley to those guys, but Cooley's a lot younger than Thomas and Kyrou, and he's already making this huge impact. So, little worrying on skill level, I think, there, just showing how Utah and LA have been really damaging the Blues team the last two games.
LA had lost 3 or 4 in a row coming into our game. I said it prior. They're going to start playing better. Yeah. And they did. So that wasn't very shocking to see that they played better. I think the Blues' response to their efforts was pathetic. I think we can all admit that. Utah's good. Like, I know that we've talked about this before too. Utah and the Blues are in constantly the same conversation about who's going to be the one that picks it up, maybe vie for a top 3 in the Central, or go for the first or second wild card. Like, the Blues and the Mammoth are almost always mentioned in the same sentence. So good. And we've always struggled against Utah. Like, I think that's always been a problem for the Blues. And I know we were able to shake that with that last game of the year when we clinched the playoff spot and beat the crud out of them. But it's not going to repeat itself like that. And the Blues need to be able to beat a team like Utah or a team like LA in order to make sure that they're going to be in control of their own destiny when it comes to making the playoffs. And right now they're not. And Utah had an edge right after that first goal. They smelled blood and they went after it. And that's exactly what happened. And you have Cooley had the hat trick within the first 9 minutes of the game, which is just absolutely insane.
Yep.
And then you have 4-0 first period and you have to claw your way out, and they couldn't do it. So yeah, horrible week overall. And you have to give credit to the opponents though. Like, they played well, and I know LA just beat Dallas.
Right.
So it's not, I know they're not a bad team. Like, they're starting to play better, and that was inevitable.
Yep. A couple silver linings, I would say, though, with the last couple games. And you said it with the Buchnevich 600 goal. Finally, I said in the Sunday episode, Nick, that we hoped that this was going to be a Buchnevich breakthrough. And we finally got it. And by the way, it shouldn't even been a goal last night. The goalie's helmet was off when he shot it. That's supposed to be dead play, like right when that happens. And they decided that they should keep it because they didn't really see it. So
I think they said that Utah has to have possession in order to stop play. That's what Rutherford said on
okay.
Twitter. I don't know. That's what he said. I didn't check it though.
Okay.
Fact.
And then I said Sundqvist. Also, he looked great in his first game with the Blues and was probably the best player that I saw. Obviously, had 2 assists with it. But also, I think the physicality last night was good, especially in the second and third period. You could tell that the Blues really cared. They had 27 hits last night. Utah only had 13. And Broberg got on the board as well. And that was a really good goal. That's an offensive defenseman goal. Just that wraparound and great pass from Sundqvist. So a couple silver linings there, I would say. And also one other one is that when we think about the struggles with the Blues, well, I like to compare it to industry average when it comes to this. So Calgary, right? We thought that this team was going to be pretty good in the season. They were good last year and probably were going to be contending for that wild card spot with the Blues. Last in the Pacific right now. They got 3 points. They're 1-6-1. Pretty bad. Vancouver has pretty good 4-4 that we've also played. Also, though, the Wild, they're below the Blues technically right now. They're 3-3-1, and so pretty similar, except we got the tiebreakers. And then Dallas is also below us, 3-3-1. So, it's kind of weird, and maybe teams are going through this again early part of the season. I guess we don't need to panic because there are other teams that are going through this sort of struggle, and Utah's number 2 in the Central right now, right behind Colorado. So they got 12 points. They're 6-2. So yeah, I think it's just probably some tough starts to the season. I don't know, but maybe it'll change in the next 2 weeks. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, everything is relative. So, I mean, things can change literally in a week. Like the Blues could easily, and it's not like I would count it out. That their ceiling's higher than it was last year, and you know that they're capable of more. And they play, guess what? They play one of the better teams in the NHL currently. You have Detroit tomorrow night. That's going to be a big game. And I would not be surprised if they win this game. Like, I just wouldn't.
Because they're on the road.
On the road in Detroit. And then you turn back around on Monday night, and then you play Pittsburgh, and then a homestand starts with Detroit again, and then Vancouver on Thursday. All great opportunities. Yeah. And that's what you have in an 82-game season. Yeah. You have the power of turning into what is deemed to be maybe a crisis currently with what is going on and how they're playing, and turn that into nothing, to dust, in literally 6 days. So, and they know that, and that's why like football is such a, like, it's time to panic mode, because there's only 17 games and you need every game matters, and college football the same way. Baseball is not like that. Hockey's not like that. Basketball is not like that. There's plenty of time to make up for bad games. So when people are reacting like, oh, the Blues are done, we got to sell, fire Montgomery, I've heard that, and I'm like, oh my God, like just craziness and overreaction and hyperbolic stuff coming out of Blues fans right now. But I understand the frustration, no doubt. But I mean, 2 games on the road, 2 games at home in the next 6 days, you could find yourself in a much better spot, or we could be talking about this in a much more hyperbolic manner than what we just did. And I really don't want to do that. Or you could find yourself 2-2 and you're like, all right, well, that was fine, I guess. And, that's not the worst case scenario. But, we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting week, because they know that they're not playing well. And everyone knows they're not playing well. So they have an opportunity to right the ship.
Yeah. I just hate that the struggles are all at Enterprise Center.
Yeah.
That's, to me, it's just a really bad look for this team, and makes the fans say, what the hell? Why is this happening when this is at our arena and you got us on your side and we're going to cheer you on? And there were fans there for pretty much the whole time until they scored that empty net goal, because they were sort of charging back, right? But they had some faith, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't believe this yet, that we still haven't won a game on home ice yet, right? Like that's just embarrassing.
Murmurs
Murmurs
that it's the jerseys.
Yeah, murmurs.
Since they've moved into their new home uniforms, 0-3, and they've lost by a combined 16 goal differential. So not good. And with their old classic unis at home, they're 1-0 and they beat the Stars. So, I hate to be the guy that says they need to switch jerseys.
Don't say that.
But it's kind of like when Montgomery would just shut up about the goal songs prior the win songs prior to the game starting. It worked one time and they lost the next 4 when he tried to do all of them.
Jukebox hero.
Stop doing that. And the jersey's like, I'm all for switching up mojo. And sometimes if that's what it takes, just do it. But if they don't win one of the 2 games at home next week and they wear those jerseys, I'm probably going to be all in on that theory. Just a heads up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, now we're resorting to things that probably were unthinkable. But here we are. But I'm excited to see what they can do on the road because they're pretty good on the road. I thought that maybe one of the 2 I think were better at on the road with Vancouver game versus the Calgary game. But you're headed into Detroit, who is good. They're 5-3 though. Last time we checked, they were 5-1, so they've lost 2 this week. So they're coming off of some struggles, which maybe the Blues can capitalize on. And then you go to Pittsburgh, and then you're back at home, as you said. So, yeah, it's a really weird phenomenon. I don't really know what to say. And the jerseys look better. So, it's in my opinion. But again, there are Blues fans who don't think that. So,
Pittsburgh's won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And they're 6-2. So, it's not like they're not playing good hockey right now. So, it should be a tough road trip. Not going to lie.
Yeah. And then one other thing I wanted to emphasize too, Nick, real quick, was the kind of the paradox with some of the stats out with these games. Talked about the hits, physicality doesn't necessarily you're going to equal the energy that you're going to bring with that. So, you got 27 hits last night. You couldn't really bring it into the rest of the game, although a little bit more in the third. They were better than Utah in the faceoff circle last night. They had more takeaways than Utah last night, and the goal differential is only -7. So it's just a weird paradox, I think, and I don't really. And again, it's a very good example of how these stats really don't always tell the whole story, I think, with the team.
I just think sometimes it's deceiving when Utah goes up 4-0.
Right.
It just changes the whole game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like Blues have to be super aggressive, and Utah can just sit back. And they almost sat back too much and let the Blues come all the way back. But again, like that's why I don't even like stats can be deceiving. Like I think it can be deceiving in the opposite direction of what you're even alluding to, because it can be skewed in the form of Utah doesn't care anymore about pushing for offensive zone time or trying to get quality chances at the net. You're up 4 goals. You got your goals. You should be able to win a hockey game with 4 goals. And that's kind of what they thought, which they couldn't have won with 4 goals last night. But the Blues helped them out, and that's what we've been doing best.
Yep. So I think the hopes heading into next week, Nick, is you're going to turn to Jordan Bennington, who has been your guy for the last 6 years. And you're going to say, hey, we're going to put you in Detroit. We're going to put you against Pittsburgh. And I hope they do. And maybe they'll put Hofer for Pittsburgh, but I hope not, actually. Maybe he'll come back at home to face Detroit the next day. But either way, you got to turn to this guy and say, hey, our team is struggling. Let's get some big saves out of you. You can generate some energy for this team, not let up those weak goals in the beginning parts of the first period like Hofer has done. And then we can probably get some energy and find our footing. I think that's the moral of this, wouldn't you say?
I think, unfortunately, they're going to start Bennington tomorrow, and then they will start Hofer on the road in Pittsburgh on Monday because of the back-to-back. And Hofer has thrown up 2 straight stinkers at home.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think if he does that again, I think there's a really high probability that he gets booed. And I think that's the last thing that Montgomery would want for him. It's the last thing I would want for him. So I think they give him a shot on the road in Pittsburgh. And, who cares if the road crowd boos you or whatever? It doesn't matter. This is part of the course. So I think they're going to be careful with that, and they'll probably play him in Pittsburgh. But that's just my theory.
Yep. Well, we'll see how many more wake-up calls that this team is going to need to really push to start getting more into the win column, obviously, but also just playing better brand of hockey. Because right now, Nick, the last 2 games, I love watching hockey. I love watching the Blues. That's why we do this podcast. But I have not really enjoyed watching these last 2 games. They have not been good displays of hockey, and great displays if you're Utah and LA. You got to be happy as a fan for that. It's like, oh, we're shooting pucks left and right and generating some great A chances all the time. But for Blues fans, probably aren't thinking that. So, yeah, that's probably one of the things I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The other teams have looked good against us, especially when they're on the road and we're at home. We got to come out of this, and I think there's a lot of pressure on the leadership in the locker room right now, whether it's Montgomery, Robert Thomas, Braden Shen, Justin Falk, a little bit. Parayko. You got to turn to your leaders and your best players when it's all said and done to get you out of a rut, and that needs to happen tomorrow. So we'll see. I think it's going to be really interesting. And one other thing, it sucked hearing John Kelly on the broadcast on Tuesday. Just wanted to throw that out there.
No, it was a great tribute, by the way.
Yeah,
that they had for him, and very much deserved. But yeah, I think that the story going into this one is what I said before, and also, can this defense really get together and really display something better than what we've seen, and not put so much pressure on Binnington like what we saw against Dallas? I think that's the goal. And then for the offense is like, can we actually get into the offensive zone? And I know the one final thing I wanted to say, and I didn't get to it when we were talking about the ozone, was just how the success rate. They were 44% in getting into the zone with their successful entry percentage. And the league average is like 54, right? So got to get better at that. Maybe it's not always the dump and chase, but you have to figure out ways with the players that you have that are skillful. You have a skillful team. Just a matter of getting into the right areas.
Even when they get into the zone, they don't do anything when they're in the zone. It's usually a couple passes and a turnover, and it's going the other way. Right. So I don't even care about the success rate. Even if it was above average, I'd be like, BS, I don't care. They don't have sustained pressure in the offensive zone. Yeah. So it doesn't even matter if you enter it cleanly or not. So whatever. You can preach about that all day, but it's just like, even if they enter the zone, they don't do much, especially if they're not down 4 goals and people are just sitting back, letting them do whatever. So,
yeah. Well, I'll preach all I want about it because I believe it's a interesting stat, and I hope that they can get that up because big couple games ahead, as we've said. So we will wrap this one up. Appreciate you guys for joining the live stream and for all the comments on our YouTube. We really appreciate that. And we'll be back on Wednesday since there'll be 3 games to cover, and we don't want to cover 5 games in one podcast on next Sunday. So we're going to come to you in the midweek, and we'll a lot shorter than this, and we'll give you a brief update and see if things have changed, hopefully on a more positive note, Nick, because I don't want to have the same attitude coming into Wednesday.
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on Wednesday. Hopefully you enjoyed Joey Vitale on our first edition of the midweek shift. He was great and had some great things to say as a CBC high school alum and also a Northeastern alum. Bad things for the guys over here on this podcast, but we really appreciate having him on. So if you haven't tuned into that, it doesn't matter. It's a very good interview and doesn't really expire, I would say, depending on the timing. So until Wednesday, we will enjoy some 3 Blues games. See you then.
See you guys.